Particularly gruesome was the attack on my aunt. She was late in her pregnancy and could not run away. A few of the attackers grabbed her, cut open her belly. They removed the fetus, stabbed it, and then stabbed my aunt, killing both of them. Their dead bodies were inhumanely tossed into a burning house. One lesson to be learned for us is that the great enemy of the vulnerable and the oppressed is fear. Jersey City. But our presence here today has evolved. Over a year ago, we spoke with the arrangers for this lecture. Larry Leduc was my first contact. And we were going to talk about international criminal law, perhaps with a focus on gender-based violence. And believe it or not, gender-based violence isn't just a sexual attack. Gender-based violence is when they grabbed her and cut open her belly. And then Tunisia happened. And then Egypt happened. And knowing that this lecture was going to be at one of the most diverse universities, not only in New Jersey, but in the country, we got a call from your administration, from the first speaker that you heard from here today, saying, is there any way to include some comments, some education, some thoughts about what's going on in Egypt? And we said, certainly, why not? So we included it, and we want to talk about it. This statement was made on an application in a process that's first in the world of international criminal justice. And that is that the victims aren't just bystanders. They aren't just referred to in the words of the prosecutor when an accused is brought to bear in the dock at the International Criminal Court, but they can actually participate and give voice to what has occurred to them in that process. And the International Criminal Court allows victims to have legal representatives. Yes, lawyers. Lawyers have an expanded role in representing victims so that that process can evolve. Since it's new, we were the first to collect these stories from Darfurian victims and have them recognized in a situation, in a case, at the International Criminal Court. This application is from Darfurian victim applicant Y.E. We regret that we can't tell you her name, but she does live here in the United States now, in the diaspora collection of Darfurian victims. They're all over the world, and we have been fortunate enough to hear many of their stories. We represent survivors of mass atrocities. We represent parties before international criminal tribunals. And you're here of our representation not only of victims, but also of accused in international criminal tribunals. We do human rights impact assessments and human rights educations, presentations, and training. But we really want to speak to what you can do in this whole scheme as well today. And we'll get more to that. But the main thing we want to impress upon you that if you're not already doing it, you can spread the word. So we thought we might start at the end of our story and tell you briefly how we wound up at this spot. We support activities as lawyers representing Darfurians at the International Criminal Court, but we've been around. Now, Raymond hates when I use this example, but my interest in international criminal law was born, appropriately so, on Valentine's Day, but it was born out of my relationship with Raymond. I represented him as his lawyer in negotiating contracts in those various arenas that we've talked about, that Professor Stanton so eloquently talked about. I bet Raymond hasn't had a great introduction like that since the last time he gave a speech and the person who was introducing him didn't show up, so he had to introduce himself. But Raymond had a passion for international law, especially Nuremberg. I couldn't get away from it. It was C-SPAN all day and the Hitler Channel that we finally refer to the History Channel at night. So like many of you, you might be a baseball fan and you visit arenas throughout the country. We were invited to give a speech at the 60th anniversary of the start of the Nuremberg trial in 2005 in Nuremberg, Germany. So we were there, and we had to take a moment and stand in the dock where Hermann Goering sat through his trial, and we stood in the same place in the Palace of Justice, right in courtroom 600. So how did we get there? We consult on the operation of international criminal tribunals throughout the world. We teach international criminal law. We practice in international criminal tribunals. And there came a point that we were actually able to consult with the development of the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda and actually practice in representing an accused at the Special Court for Sierra Leone. But more on that later.